I think that treating history with respect is the utmost, I think, fundamental ethic that one who is a free thinker or philosopher or independent researcher should adhere to.
Test the claim.
Henry, say what you were saying again. I don't know. Okay. It's not my microphone. Sorry, I'm just borrowing.
This
I'm borrowing
is so
it
funny.
from someone. Yeah. So
okay.
what were you saying about Japanese culture specifically?
Japanese cultures, yes, especially the video games of the mid 90s and the early 2000s. They are highly inspired and also almost metamorphosized Zoroastrian, Parthian / mythical creatures and beasts and symbolisms and I think if you're taking so much inspirations and you're profiting of it, you should be donating those money.
Paying a royalty,
Paying royalties to existing Parsi communities and Zoroastrian communities in the West or even in Japan. Because then this also helps close-knit religious communities to thrive under God knows this chaotic economic world we have, And plus, like for example, the Chinese company behind Genshin Impact, that game, people don't know, but Hoyoverse did, under pressure from Chinese gamers, did donate to the Mandaean community. Mandaeans, the game, the writers, the narrative writers of Genshin Impact has openly said that Mandaean mythology, Mandaean concept of Holy Grail, Holy Guardian Angel has highly influenced, and also concept of the Archons and Prince of Darkness has influenced the development of Genshin Impact game.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's drawing a very clear influence from that.
Very clear.
Imagery.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what you said about Japanese culture. So I'm pretty sure you know already. According to Zarathustra, the name of the ultimate principle of God is Ahura Mazda.
Yeah.
Mazda, the name of the Japanese car company,
Japanese
is drawn
car
from this principle. So
yes.
the founder of the Mazda car company, his name is Matsuda. But he also invokes the name of what he calls the Persian god on the Mazda website. Yeah. It says, I chose that name in order to associate my brand with the virtues associated with the Persian god. So, yeah, I agree.
then Mazda should be paying royalties.
Okay, so I tried to flip things a little bit. So I recently started a project called Lord Wisdom. Lord Wisdom is like a translation of Ahura Mazda. But interestingly, I used the Mazda font.
It's the Star Wars font. Oh, be careful.
No, it's the Mazda font.
Okay, Mazda font.
Yeah, until very recently they changed it. But so the Lord Wisdom project is using the Mazda font. Seeing as they didn't pay any royalties, I thought I'll plagiarize their typeface. So I'm trying to invert things there a little bit. Yeah.
How are you feeling, Syrus? Either way, hearing what I had to say.
No, I like how you framed it actually. It's reassuring, it's comforting, because it's easy for me to take that perspective, but it's reassuring, and I feel like it validates many of my views to hear someone who's perhaps not within the fold of that, it's not part of your ancestry necessarily, acknowledging it.
Okay, acknowledging.
Yeah. I think that's very nice.
I honestly think that religious communities who preserved with the scripture, holy scripture, the literature or the legends they have, despite it's debated whether they're real or not, but it's a lasting legacy. They're part of history, and having them disappear or going extinct, I think that's an insult on how humanity's been unable to preserve history and actually be neutral about history. And that's one of the reasons I'm very vigilant against liberal revisionism of history.
Right.
I'm fine with revisionism to a certain extent, but I don't agree with when I say liberal, I'm not talking about, like liberal, like free speech or that. I'm talking about neoliberals. I'm talking about the Hayek, the Reagan lot, the Margaret Thatcher, the douchebaggeries of this, the Milton Friedman lot, that they think that history is like an economic transaction. I'm not kidding. Go read their books. So I think that treating history with respect is the utmost, I think, fundamental ethic that one who's a free thinker, a philosopher, or independent researcher should adhere to. Yeah,
I mean, these traditions are also part of the human story,
human psyche.
Even just for academic purposes, they should be preserved. We should be able to study them.
Yeah. How bloody it is! How bloody, like Mithra. Sorry, I don't want to change term, but people agree Mithraism is pretty bloody. Well, they are, some of the principles are pretty heavy at gore, but we lost that history. A lot of the Mithraism, right?
You mean Roman Mithraism?
Roman Mithraism. I'm not talking about not the original Mithraism. I'm talking about Romanized, Hellenized Mithraism, Mithraic mystery schools.
Right.
Yeah, but now, especially I'm talking to modern day Hellenists, that I think you guys need to be more strategic in a way that you deal with Christian fundamentalists and evangelists. Don't be so confrontational regarding this, because the academic side is not for Hellenism. Like I can quote you Francesca Strakopoulos. Francesca Strakopoulos, she's a Greek biblical author, right?
Yes.
She talked about the before Christianity, like the Jesus figure, did have some influence from Mithraic stories, Mithraic legends. Kind of in the early Christians.
This is a current scholar, right?
Yeah, current scholar.
Biblical.
So I think her book is called "How God Creation of God." I think I can't remember off the top of my head.
Right.
I'll check later.
Yeah.
But she quoting, I can't remember exactly the number, but she did mention that a lot of the legends and stories, the narrative, like the parables found in the New Testament, some of them, not all of them, but the parallel stories from like Mithraism or even early Zoroastrian tales, Zarathustra tales. She doesn't go into specific details, but in her interview she talks about it for once. Like there seems to be a blur within the history of early Christianity, that despite that Mithraism died after Christianity prevailed, Christianity still preserved some iconography aspect of Mithras.
Well, I've heard some scholars even suggest that, especially in Roman Catholicism, the Mithraic symbology forms arguably 90% of Roman Catholic symbology.
What?
And we can talk. It's quite a long time since I looked at the material. But okay, for example, there is the Vesica Persica, the fish symbol.
Oh yeah.
So there's one. I don't want to name him just now, but there's one scholar, for example, who identifies that as being the intersection between two circles. So if you actually look at the symbol, you can quite easily extrapolate that idea. Mithras is the mediator. Depending on which school of Zoroastrianism you use. So, for example, there are some schools that have a theological dualism, where they recognize Ahura Mazda or Ormazd or Hormuz as the antithesis of Ahriman. I reject that idea, but it's a later heresy. They then identify Mithras as being the mediator between the two. And that fish symbol is the intersection between the two circles, one representing good, one representing evil. He, by playing that role, he also represents the freedom of mankind to choose between the two.
Okay.
Also in Roman Mithraism, Mithras or Mitra as he's known to the Persians, or Meh as he's known to the Persians, does not only mediate in that sense, in that theological sense, but also he mediates or oversees. I'm getting slapped by Ahura Mazda right now. He oversees contracts, oaths, covenants, and agreements by the handshake specifically. So the handshake has been argued.
The Masonic handshake.
The handshake.
Okay, just the handshake.
The handshake.
Okay.
Is thought to be a Mithraic ritual, which is overseen by Mithras, who's governing the agreement, because agreements are sealed with a handshake, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the. Mithras is very, very interesting because he's arguably, I would argue, he's the most successful of the Iranian or Indo-Iranian divinities, in the sense that he's infiltrated society from east to west. As in, there is even a rendering of Mithras in a school of Buddhism. I don't remember what the name.
Zen Buddhism?
In Japan, he's known as Mitoku.
Zen Buddhism, okay. Zen and Chan Buddhism, they're quite similar.
I'm going to find the name. It's unforgivable that I've forgotten it, but.
Have you heard of the Buddhist so-called intermediary deity called Bishamonten?
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay.
Tell me about it.
I can spell it for you. Bishamonten. The worship and celebration of this deity is quite common during the 17th and the 16th century. Okay.
The Buddha that I was referring to is Maitreya.
Maitreya. Okay.
Now, even in the word Maitreya, you hear Mitra, right? You hear Mithras.
Yes.
I think it's a cognate of the same word. Maitreya is. So, in later Zoroastrianism, Mithras becomes a figure, like an eschatological figure, a savior figure who comes in the future. Maitreya Buddha is the Buddha to come in the future. And also the visual depictions of Mithras in the Roman world, for example, depict a figure who wears a crescent diadem, a crown, from which emanate rays of sunlight. So with that image in your mind, I'll show you briefly what Maitreya looks like.
Maitreya, okay.
Like it's the same. It's the same. No, I'll just show it to the camera as well. That's Maitreya Buddha, and then I'll show you Roman Mithras, which I have also mentioned on my channel. I suspect is being depicted by the Statue of Liberty. I suspect that the Statue of Liberty may be a rendition of Mithras. There's lots of simple. Like you see the solar crown or the solar diadem, and of course the Statue of Liberty also has the diadem with the rays of the sun emanating from it.
What do you think about the torch, so-called Torch of Liberty?
It gets quite deep. It gets quite deep. So, Mithras is associated with Apollo. He's associated with Sol Invictus.
Sol Invictus, yes.
Yeah, the undying or the unvanquished sun. But Mithras is not the sun. He is a solar deity, but he's not the sun itself.
Okay.
He precedes the sun. He is depicted as traveling across the sky in his golden chariot, radiating light, but it's not the sun, it's leading the sun.
Okay.
I.e., the morning star.
Morning star.
Which is, in a biblical vernacular,
they say Lucifer.
is Lucifer, the bringer of light. I'm going to accept a bottle of water. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. And in that sense, he's the torchbearer, holding the torch aloft. I'll give you a bit more of the imagery. In Roman Mithraism, in the mystery cult of Mithras, it was a... No worries. So it was a secret society that involved rites of ascension. So you would rise up in the ranks, just like you see in modern secret societies, for example. Through a series of rituals and rites, you ascend in the ranks. One of the rituals is called the Rite of the Nymphus, also known as the Rite of the Bridegroom. But all members of this cult were male. So who's the bride? It's a man wearing a bridal gown. So now what if I tell you that the Statue of Liberty is Mithras just wearing the bridal gown, holding aloft the torch, wearing his crescent diadem emanating rays of the sun. Bartholdi, the guy who designed the statue, was also a Freemason. And it's thought that many of the ideas or themes in Mithraism simply got kind of diffused into secret societies with the rise of Christianity in the Roman world.
Went underground, you would say?
I mean, it was already underground because the temples were literally subterranean. But went underground, meaning it lost popularity and became even more of a mystery cult than it had ever been. But there are symbols of it everywhere even in Western culture. So, I gave you this image of the chariot crossing the sky.
Yes.
That is an image from the rite, another one of those rites of ascension, called the Rite of the Solar Charioteer. So Mithras is flying across the sky in his golden chariot, which radiates sunlight. And adherents, in order to conjure this image, shield their eyes, symbolically, like this. So the military salute. And of course, Roman Mithraism was the religion of the military elite, the officer class. So the common soldier tended to be a Christian, and the officers, the elites, tended to be Mithraists. And so the military salute is the Roman Mithraist shielding his eyes from the radiant glory of Mithras traversing the sky in his golden chariot.
Is there an Italian historiography I can read that we can confirm this salute, that the universal salute is actually derived from Mithraic, the charioteer to respect Mithras on the chariot?
For full disclosure, I'm relying on other people having done the heavy lifting in terms of the research here. But I have books where the references exist, and so I'll be happy to. I'll give you the book for a while to check it out. Other symbols, for example, in particular, I think it's in American Special Forces. I think it's a Marine in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
They have this symbol of the fasces.
Oh yes, fasces.
So it's a bundle of sticks.
I thought that's Roman symbol.
Roman Mithraism. It's also in Zoroastrianism.
What?
It's also in Zoroastrianism.
Then why did Mussolini
he was
deliberately take two cultures?
Iranian themes have been appropriated and repurposed by many different, especially different political ideologies. So, 1930s Germany, for example,
did with Buddhism, yes.
But they were also drawing upon the work of Nietzsche, not with Nietzsche's permission, mind you. And Nietzsche specifically works like Thus Spoke Zarathustra, where Nietzsche invokes the Übermensch.
Yeah.
So the fasces in an Iranian context is called the Barsum. It basically implies that a stick in isolation is easy to break, but a bundle of sticks together, standing together, are much stronger, much harder to break. Why this was appropriated by quite extreme, kind of political ideologies, I'm not 100% sure. But like I say, it's also an image used by the Marine Corps in the United States.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, Ahura Mazda's mad with you.
He's hearing. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not a Mithrist. I don't recognize any form of Zoroastrianism that invokes Mithras.
Because
Zarathustra never mentioned it.
Right?
Zarathustra never mentioned it.
He's a bit like.
But he predates Zarathustra. The worship of Mithras is an Indo-Iranian phenomenon, so it also appears in the Vedas.
Oh, I see. So the Kushans, Kushan Empire and the Tokharians. No, they don't have.
Someone else asked me about the Tokharians actually.
Yeah.
That's the Tarim Basin, right?
Yeah, Tarim Basin.
I don't have a lot of knowledge about that, but I've heard it mentioned in a lot of my reading, but I haven't paid a huge amount of attention to it.
Because I heard, I don't want to go off the topic, because the Tokharians, in Roman, so-called Roman ethnology, they depict Scythians with Tokharians. So some people confuse Tokharians with Scythians.
I've heard Tokharians described as Indo-Europeans. Scythians or Scythians are also of Indo-European heritage, being part of the Iranian ethno-linguistic group. But what relation they have directly to the Tokharians, I don't know. Okay. But the Scythians occupied much of Central Asia at their height. They were somewhat forced westward later on by, or various tribes of Scythian origin were pushed westward by the sort of Turco-Mongol expansion to the west. Many of them, in fact, were pushed so far to the west that they ended up in Europe. So one group who I think are of Sarmatian stock, the Alans, and the word Alan is a cognate of Aryan, of Iran. So the Alans, who joined culturally with the Goths of Central Asia, migrated westward through Germania and actually eventually ended up in northern Spain. This group together, first of all, are described as having had Alan culture with Gothic military strength. When they arrived in what we call Spain now, they established a settlement called Goth Alania, which today we describe as Catalonia. So this kind of merger between the Goths and Alans resulted in one of the very well-known areas of northern Spain. And we see the Gothic style in their architecture. The Sagrada Familia is the quintessential Gothic style. So that style came from...
And then the art word appropriated as Art Nouveau.
Right.
Yeah, people need to read Art Nouveau.
Yeah.
It has a French name, but it has a very colonialist history. Colonialist history, the rebrand,
Interesting.
Yeah. They basically, is spherical, no cubical design in Art Nouveau. That's a different story, sorry. Not to go off.
We don't have an agenda here. We can talk about anything.
But there is an agenda I want to speak to. But I think I can speak to because these groups are not taken seriously, but they should be taken seriously. Have you heard of the Order of the Solar Temple?
No, not specifically.
They claim to have the knowledge of the Holy Grail, the Ark. So it's a cult that they were involved with so-called ritual killings and stuff.
So are they associated with the Knights Templar?
I think they are associated with the Maltese Knights. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm not too familiar, but there's a researcher you should go to read, to watch.
Yep.
Is William Ramsey, the Gordon Ramsay surname, but William Ramsey, not Sir William Ramsey, not the explorer.
Okay.
William Ramsey, who investigates. He has a YouTube channel,
right?
And he talks about the solar temple.
Right.
People, and he says this group is connected with the smiley face killers. So,
right.
Yeah. But even the smile. Oh, it's quite scary. In Japan, there's an anime called Assassination Classroom.
Right.
One of the we don't know who's the director or author of the anime. Very interestingly, he goes by a pseudonym. Sakuchi Yamamoto, but it's not his real name.
Right.
His main character is the head teacher, full-blown smiley face, and he teaches young children how to kill and hunt. And to graduate, you have to kill your class teacher, which is like Avatar himself,
right.
The smiley face.
Right.
And it's quite shocking to me why that anime was allowed to release when that anime has a lot of esoteric ties to the very vicious group, smiley face death cult, I think I call it.
Right.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that I don't know what happened, but Japanese anime used to be more ideological rather than esoteric religious based. But nowadays, even I think viewers on your channel will know Oshinoko means starlight child. Even that story has a lot of esoteric symbology. The person behind it is. I'm surprised he made a manga and adaptation of the anime because he was irreligious. He was not religious. He was he created one of the most funny romance comedy anime called Kaguya Love is War. Yes, love that anime, funny anime. He came out Oshinoko, which everyone. It was a very controversial anime, and they didn't understand who is the starlight child, who is the child in the starlight, really, the star-born child, basically. But the thing is, I don't know what happened. Like, Japan has such a rich esoteric history. There always have been, especially with Shinto, polytheistic Shinto roots. Shinto faith loves to borrow and learn from other faiths. Like Shinto merged with Buddhism, Shinto merged with Sasanian, Zoroastrian ideas. Also, that happened. Apparently, even academic historian called Neo Komichi and Chinese historian called Guo Yuwei, they confirmed that Sasanian Zoroastrianism did influence Japanese thinking views.
What's the name? What was the first name you gave?
Guo Yuwen. I can't.
But you said you named two different academics, right?
Sakamoto Akichi, I think. Akichi Sakamoto, I think. I'll check.
Did you take my email last week?
I don't think so.
I'll
don't
give it
remember.
to you.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to get some small reading list from you at some point. Speaking of anime, maybe I'll bring it back to like a more wholesome flavour.
Yes.
There is a series currently on Netflix actually called The Legend of Arslan.
Yes, I seen it. I loved it.
I
seen it. Arslan. Arslan also means lion in Turkic also.
Right.
Arslan.
But the plot is kind of based around the Parsian
era.
Era. And I think I've forgotten the name of their opposition, but I think it's like a play on Byzantium, I think in some
they worship Yalda Bao.
Yeah.
The Gnostic deities.
Yes.
Yeah, so I forgot what exactly. I can't remember, but that is interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm sad they didn't have a season 3.
I think it's a shame that they didn't make it slightly more historical, and it's kind of like semi-historical. But yeah, it's an interesting.
But this story I highly recommend. It's called Shuttle. But the girl, but I don't understand. The Tanguts had no relations with Iranic, have no Iranic Tans. The Tanguts who are in North Tibet. But in that story, the Japanese author deliberately turned the main protagonist, Shamsia. You have an Iranian name, and she has a typical Tokharian Iranic looking redhead.
Right.
That was a weird decision they made, and they sent. It's a manga called Shuttle. Shut up without up, but hell, you know the hell, like hellfire hell without the fire.
Okay.
Shuttle.
Okay.
Yeah, that manga, and it has blatant Zoroastrian hand waving and shit. And the story is about her encounter with Mongolian half Tangut Mongol prince who was trying to preserve the Tangut script.
Right.
But the Tangut script is already extinct. But this is some time travel story of reincarnation.
A bit of
that's cool. Oh, I love Arslan.
Creative license.
What would you think of Da Yong?
Yeah.
The character.
Aryan, like very heroic. Duty bound kind of guy. Yeah.
I'm confused. Why does the opponent to the Parsis,
the Lusitanians,
Lusitanians have a French cross symbol.
Yeah. As I say, I think it's just a number of different themes squeezed into.
You gave me Crusader vibe.
Yeah, definitely. And what I found actually quite interesting was, especially at the very, very beginning of the story, the Parthians are depicted as the slave traders, the slave owners. Whereas, if you look at, like Achaemenid history, for example, Syrus the Great came and made sweeping policies to end the captivity or the keeping of slaves. Yet in this anime, the Parthians are depicted as the slave owners, and the Lusitanians seem to be more
that was
righteous
confusing.
in that particular respect. Yeah,
that was confusing.
Yeah.
They also in the season 2, part 2, they depict the India, Taran. India. That's not good. That's a poor depiction.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of creative license being used, but
I think creative license can be used, but when the anime is fully based off Achaemenid looking.
I think when there's so much, there's such an abundance of historical narrative. Yeah. Why not use that and also use it as an opportunity to educate at the same time?
One of the characters that Lassus, one of the strategists, golden hair boy, Narcissus, the only one who frees the slave. Why? But the confusion is that they also have. I seen the manga, but the legend, the Arslan, heroic legends of Arslan already had an anime way before in the Atlantis, in the 80s. They had a really VHS.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They have another VHS version that was much more true. But every character looks like a Final Fantasy character. That's funny. But my confusion is they included tribal leader's daughter called. In the drought called Alpha Reed.
I remember the name.
Character. But they got Arabic sounding character's name.
Well, they seem to have blended a lot of different themes.
They brought in tribal Arabia into this. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry, you need to go, right?
I'm going to wrap up the video.
But
it's always fascinating speaking with you about these things. I appreciate talking to you.
Can we talk about after the?
Yeah, of course.